so I started taking chances on more off-the-beaten-path locations. There were a few flops in there, of course, but many happy surprises too. Lithuania, Trinidad and Tobago, Taiwan, and interior Mexico all wound up being some of my favorite trips. I may never have gotten to visit any of these if I'd confined myself to $850 flights, and thus one trip per year at most, because I would have been less willing to take a gamble on somewhere unconventional. After that serendipitous trip to Milan, word spread to coworkers and friends who all had the same request. Scott, when you find another deal like that, can you let me know so I can get in on it too? Rather than trying to remember everyone I'd promised to alert, I started a simple little email list, Scott's Cheap Flights. Today, Scott's Cheap Flights has over 2 million members who have collectively saved over $500 million off normal flight prices since 2015. It couldn't have happened but for the fact that since the mid-2010s, we have been living in what I call the golden age of cheap flights. Not every single flight is inexpensive, of course, just as you couldn't sink a shovel into any random 1850s-era patch of California dirt and expect to find a gold nugget. Never in history, though, have flights been as cheap and numerous as they are today. And yet, in 2018, as fares departing the United States dropped as low as $224 round trip to Paris and $377 round trip to Tokyo, a Morning Consult poll found that only 13% of respondents said the cost of flights had gotten better in the past few years. Meanwhile, 71% said airfare had stayed the same or gotten worse. Though airfare can be erratic, it's not indecipherable. On the contrary, with a basic knowledge of how airfare works, anyone can relish the joy of cheap flights. That's why I set out to write this book, a manifesto for finding cheap flights so you can travel, see, live more. Nobody wants to overpay for airfare. So why do so many of us do it? Why do we hand over $1,000 for a single round-trip fare to Europe when that much cash could easily buy 3 flights? It's because plane tickets are one of the most confusing purchases we regularly make, and there's a remarkable lack of trustworthy guidance, plus a staggering amount of disinformation on how to get good deals. After all, the airlines want you to stay baffled. It's in their financial interest. The less you know about airfare, the more you'll spend on it. For years, we've been taught to think of airfare like most other consumer products, with predictable and stable prices. And we've internalized seemingly common-sense ideas about what flights should cost. Long flights should be expensive. Short flights should be cheap. Unsold last-minute seats ought to be heavily discounted. It all makes intuitive sense. Turns out, we're all wrong. Here's why. Let's compare purchasing flights with buying some bagels. When you shop for bagels, the price is essentially the same on any given day, and it mostly depends on how many you buy. But when you shop for flights, the price is highly volatile. The same flight that cost $800 today may cost $300 tomorrow and $1,300 the next day. And the price of a flight bears little relation to how far you travel. It costs more to fly from the United States to Jamaica, for instance, than it does from the United States to China. If you get home and realize you already had plenty of bagels, you usually can go back to the store for a full refund. Not so with airfare, unless you're prepared to pay hundreds of dollars in fees. As unsold bagels near their expiration date, the price gets slashed. An unsold seat nearing takeoff date, meanwhile, soars in price. Bagel prices are consistent and logical. And as anyone who's gluten intolerant will tell you, bagels are not essential. Airfare, on the other hand, is unpredictable and irrational.